Hello, welcome to MCFC 9320, and tonight we're going to be doing a new series of podcasts, and I'm delighted who's going to be joining us this season is Anne-Marie, who you'll know from our regular podcast and stuff, but we've also got, and I'm really delighted, is Rosie. Thank you for joining us, Rosie. I'm really looking forward to this season.
Yeah, delighted to be here. Thanks for letting me be part of it.
Yeah, so loads going on, loads going on in women's football at the moment, and a lot of it's positive, which is absolutely fantastic. It's getting the exposure what it should be getting, because people who've been following the women's game, not just City women, but the women's game in general for over the years, they've been there through thick and thin, where it's raining or all weathers, and it's good that they're finally getting the recognition, and it's being built in the way it should be, equality.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So with City in particular, there's been a lot of outgoings this summer really. I can just put it on the screen here. So the outgoings, apart from obviously we've lost Jill Scott and Ellen White through retirement, which is understandable. But it's one thing I want to start off with tonight, and I'd love your opinions on this. We've lost, Lucy Bronze, Georgia Stanway, Kira Walsh, Caroline Way, and Karima Taib. One interesting thing, there just seems to be a little bit of discontent from the ladies what have left. I'll just read you a snippet of what Georgia Stanway said when she left. If I'm being honest, over the last 15 to 18 months at City, I was at a standstill. I was getting played in any position. I wasn't able to make a position on my own. I was classed as versatile, which isn't something I wanted to be. Is that a little bit discontent towards Gareth Taylor, do you think? I'll start with you, Rosie.
So I think that's the golden question, isn't it? Is this by design that he's trying to build up a new team, reset a bit, bring some players in who are maybe just pre-peak their careers, maybe a little bit post-peak as well? Is it strategy? I would play devil's advocate on that. I would have done for the last 6 months, I'd say, until Kira Walsh went to Barcelona. I think that was the big clue. I mean, she's top of her game right now. She had a fantastic Euros campaign. Obviously, she has lots of factors to think about in terms of capitalising on that. And I'm massively happy for her that she went, bitterly disappointed for Man City. And I feel like that was a straw that broke the camel's back. I really question whether Gareth Taylor has lost the locker room. It's hard to defend him at this point. I don't know what you think, Anne-Marie.
Well, I would be inclined to agree, and Andy will tell you last season when he was desperate for him to get the sack, I said that we have to stick with him because of the various and numerous injuries we had, and I thought we'd always come good, but now you do start to question it a little bit because
do you mean Andy was right?
No, I'm not saying Andy was right. What I'm saying is that we're 12 months on. We're in a position where I don't think we've got any injuries at the minute. We're looking at a full squad. But I don't know enough about the new players to know whether they're going to have a good impact or not. And that's what worries me a little bit. We're in a position now where more and more of the women's teams are improving. They're strengthening their squads, and it just concerns me a little bit. And while the club as a whole says that they're fully behind the women's game, there's just an element of doubt in my mind because I think we could have done a lot more to keep some of these players over the summer.
I agree there, Anne-Marie, and we was talking before, between us before we started recording, and the biggest one for me was Kira Walsh. Okay, I accept she's gone for a world record fee, which is believed to be about £400,000. But City should be able to absorb stuff like that, shouldn't they? I know that I believe there's a pay cap, in the women's game. Why, I don't know, because you're never going to bring it level with. I'm not saying it'll ever get level with the men's game, but you've got to give it a fighting chance by especially like it's on the crest of a wave at the moment, the women's game. So there's never a better time than to say relax stupid rules like a pay cap, because a pay cap wouldn't happen in everyday life. If I went to another employer, they're not going to say, you can only earn such and such amount of money. I think it's crazy, and City should be able to compete with that.
Which sort of comes back to your point, right? Is this even about money? Like, Kira Walsh clearly didn't want to stay, and that says a lot. And I think any club would snap her up, and obviously they have. But that says a lot about City. She's been with City for years and years, and she decided to go. And I really worry for the team, because what sort of senior mature players have you left there? You've got Steph Houghton, fair enough, she's been there. There's a few that have been there a couple of years, but a lot of that senior level and that leadership is now gone. So you got a lot of new and young players coming in. I worry about their confidence, and I worry about getting a good quick start off when the season starts.
Yeah.
United were on our heels last season, and they've got Tuna Russo and Earps in goal. Tuna Russo, people know from the Euros, were fantastic. Like, that's going to be intimidating for a lot of these younger players coming into City who look good. Do they have the connection, and do they have the confidence in that locker room? And are they inspired by Gareth Taylor? I'm not so sure.
No, I get what you're saying, because for me, like with Steph Houghton, she's the female equivalent of company to me. I've always said it.
Yeah.
She's been an absolute credit to the club, and particularly with everything that's going on in her personal life. I think she's been an absolute credit. But I just wonder if she get into the end of her career somewhat, because she's getting a lot of injuries and she's never out for just a week. It's like weeks or months. So we need to kind of see who we've got coming through that can help the young, the new players, the younger players. I'd like to think that the likes of Alex Greenwood would be able to step up. Even Chloe Kelly, after her experience at the Euros, you're looking at those kind of players to kind of make a stand and, bring everyone together.
It's a really good,
and particularly if Gareth Taylor can't do that.
Yeah, and it's a really good point about Steph Houghton. I think she must have had an incredibly difficult year, aside from like the injury. But that big thing where the Lionesses went all the way, and she was side by side with them right until the last hurdle. And they're like, that just must feel awful.
Yeah.
And then for them to come back from that great summer, those of them who actually came back to City, that's a difficult position. I think that takes a lot of resilience as a senior player to be able to have it in you to come on, push again and inspire this young lad. I think she's at the end as well. And she's certainly of an age where she's coming to the end too.
Yeah.
Yeah, with regards to the outgoing players, one thing what I've noticed, I don't know if you've picked up on it, they always seem to thank Nick Cushing for what he's done for them in their career. Not any of them have thanked Gareth Taylor, and I just find that a little bit peculiar, considering Nick Cushing's been gone now for what, three years?
Yeah, and is that by design? Like, is it that Nick did that much, or is that a subtle dig? I mean, if someone left my team in my workplace and thanked the former boss, I'd be a bit,
Exactly. I said it last season, as Anne-Marie pointed out, Rosa, and I'll say it again. I think there's something fundamentally wrong with City women, and you've got to be looking at Gareth Taylor for that, because there's just too much, say for instance, or the injuries we've had. Is it something he's doing in training where where it's causing the injuries? That's just speculation, obviously, but I think everything's got to be looked at, in absolute minute detail, because I don't think Gareth Taylor's the right man. Nothing he did at the back end of last season, although they did pick up. There's nothing I've seen to change my mind on that. Anne-Marie.
Okay. Well, you know it pains me, but you might be right, Andy.
I'm glad I'm recording this.
I bet you are.
Let
But
me note the
for
time
me,
down.
but for me, you know, it concerns me that we had a great manager in Nick Cushing, and as soon as they got an opportunity to take him and move him somewhere else, they did. Now, don't get me wrong, they're not going to be in any hurry to take Gareth Taylor anywhere.
No, but doesn't mean to say that we're not in a hurry to make him go somewhere.
Yeah, I think maybe the silver lining of all this is that using the Euros as a what do you call it, like a diving or a springboard to really take the women's game to the level. Hopefully that increases the quality of interest in managers who want to come in, who want to be part of the WSL, who want to develop as managers in the WSL.
Yep.
I think it's a great point. I'm not sure who would take Gareth Taylor at this point. And whether he'll last the season, what do you think? Do you reckon he'll last?
I'd take him. Somewhere he doesn't want to go, but I'd take him.
Well, I think we missed a trick with Hope Powell.
I think she's going to do great.
Her as our manager, because I think she has got the experience as a player and as a manager to know the score and to know, you know, how to improve things, I believe. So, you know, who knows what might happen. I think we have to watch this space on that particular one.
So here's one for you both. How come in the women, and obviously this is the first podcast and that we've done. So let's throw different things out there, because you know over the weeks we can build upon certain things. Why is there that many men managers in the women's game when there's no women in the men's game? Because something, because the England manager, she's proved what an astute cookie she really is, and surely she could do a job in the men's game.
She could, and Chelsea's manager could most definitely do a job in the men's game. For me, the issue isn't. The issue comes down to there's no men's team that would take a woman manager, because a lot of the players, I don't believe, would take instruction from a woman.
That'd be the detriment of the team, because it does in normal life. If the best person for the job is a woman, you should be employing them. And it comes down to that. It's just I just feel let's go back to Gareth Taylor again. What did he do? I know you've not always necessarily got to do something in the game to become a manager, but what did he actually do in the game anyway, apart from a second division playoff final victory? And as I've said before, we maybe in some quarters he's classed as a hero because he got us out of that division, but look at the other way, he actually got us in that problem with his teammates as well. Otherwise we wouldn't have been there in the first place.
Very true.
Fair point though, isn't it? But
yeah,
but it's not all doom and it's not all doom and gloom. It's there's plenty of positives. We brought quite a few players in this season as well. But I'm really excited to see how the likes of Chloe Kelly does, Alex Greenwood does, even Steph Orr, how she reacts and stuff like that after being out for such a long time, and especially what Rosie said, being with England all the way through, and at the last minute she doesn't go to the Euros and England win it. That you quite rightly, Rosie. I think that would pain her a little bit. Well, more than a little bit.
Yeah, there's our new manager.
Steph or Rosie?
Steph. Sorry, Rosie. I think you'd probably do a great job as well.
It's all right. I can barely walk. I wouldn't be a good manager.
You don't have to walk to be a manager. I'll vouch for that in my job.
There is another thing here, right? So Gareth Taylor, this will be his third season here, I think. It's difficult. If he didn't win that locker room over in the first season, people go, okay, we'll give him another season, which was last season. So it might be that he had that equal frustration with the players. And actually, now that they've gone, he feels like he's in a better position to work with the new talent coming in that he chose and all that sort of stuff. I don't know. That's my hope anyway, because there's an awful lot of potential in those signings, for sure. I think they just need to work on, can they, the best team aren't the team necessarily with the best players. The best teams are teams that can work at best together, right?
Yeah.
And if they can capitalize on their potential, I think we have a shot. I don't think it's all doom and gloom. But I don't know. I don't think we'll win the league this season, unfortunately. I think we might have a shot at some of the cups because they involve a bit of luck.
Yep.
I don't know.
But,
I don't know how you do.
One surprise for me, Anne-Marie, was us letting Jess Park go out on loan to Everton. Considering the outgoings, what we've got. I thought she was brilliant last season, Jess Park.
Yeah, she was, and some of the things just baffle you as to why we're doing it. You have to kind of look at this season, and I think, the likes of Chloe Kelly should have a good season, not just because of the Euros, but because she barely played last season because of injury. And so I'm hoping that that's going to, make a difference to us. But we just need to be solid, and at times it's like we're not switched on enough at the back. So I think that there's things that we can work on that can make all the difference. But it's whether, I think a lot of it's going to come down to team spirit and whether they're all backing Taylor or not.
And I think that's absolutely crucial. Do you remember a few weeks ago when we had Lakey on?
Yeah.
He was discussing up and coming coaches and stuff like that who are doing phenomenal jobs. We've already got one within our framework, Jason Wilcox. He's doing massive things. And he's working his way up. So I'd like to see if it does end up that Gareth Taylor doesn't quite make it. There is people like that, but also if whoever does come in, if Gareth Taylor goes, I think it's crucial. The number 2 is a woman there to integrate things, because like you said before, in the normal in a normal world, men don't take instructions from women. I do. You can ask me missus that. Whatever she says goes. But I think it's crucial now to start bringing the women through, more as managers, in the coaching side, because it's still men dominated, in my opinion, which is wrong.
I think I would agree with you on that one, Andy.
Again,
I think this, you're going to have such a big head after this, aren't you?
No.
But I think we have to start looking at that, because
even Jill Scott, Jill Scott is now, she's not playing. That'd be a perfect time, to bring Jill Scott, in the coaching and stuff.
And that was something that I thought they were looking at doing, because it's not just last season, but the season before she didn't play that often. And they kind of suggested that she would have a bit of a coaching role. So I think that we have to go that way, because it gives us, if you have the likes of Jill Scott or even Steph Horton, it gives the team a bit of continuity. Because, to have somebody who was there from the start, like Steph and Jill, it's important for the women's team, I think.
Rosie, like Anne-Marie's just said there, Jill Scott was with us for a number of years. Steph Horton has. That's unusual, isn't it? Why do you think that women are on short-term contracts? Not just at City, but in the game in general, when men can be, coming on a contract of between 5-7 years, but women only tend to get like 2-3 max.
I don't have an answer for the length of contract thing, but I think the reason players tend to stick at clubs, like female players, they'll renew the contract at their current club. It's because when you look at the men's game, they're earning money at such a level that for them to jump over to Barcelona or Wolfsburg, whoever, it's just swapping one mansion on Old the Edge for another one over there. It has no bearings on their life situation, their earnings. They're just earning millions and millions no matter what. For a woman, some of these players are earning very average wages. They're earning maybe 35 grand a year. For them to go, oh, do you want to pack up your life and go down south to play for Brighton for a while? It's like, well, you can give me an increase of 10 grand. That's a difference of about really 500 quid a year. My family's up here, or not family, but my settled areas up here.
Cost of living down south more as well.
Cost of living. It's much more. There are much more consequences for a female player to decide to move around. So if she finds a club, and this is kind of similar to, I think, why so many players are sticking at Man United. So a lot of them don't have international cap. They're probably at their level as high as they can go for now. So it's like, this is a good wage. I can be a professional footballer and have the lifestyle I like. It's not as easy for them to flip around as when you compare it to the men's game. For them, it's sort of inconsequential where they play. They get their money, they get their lifestyle. There's almost no other factor to it. But I'm not sure about the contract length thing. I think it's a really good question.
Yeah. One thing.
Can I give you a thought on that, Andy?
Of course.
I can't believe I'm going to say this.
You agree with me?
No, I'm not saying that again. But I believe the contracts are so short because in most of these chairmen's heads, and it is chairman, they're thinking she's going to want to go off and have kids in a year or so.
Which is, I did think it without saying it. That was wrong. But one thing, what Rosie said, what triggered something is, in the men's game, say a player was going from the north of England and he signs for a club, down south. The man can just up sticks and go there and then see his family at weekends. With a woman, it's different. I think it's totally different. Especially if the woman footballer has got kids and stuff like that. That it's totally different. Rosie, do you think?
I think it's totally different. I think we often think about female players and the success they have in terms of the big money, and they are earning good wages. But the average player in the WSL is not earning a huge amount of money. I think great money, but not enough to say I'm going to move my kids' schools. Not I'm going to send them from this private school to that private school. It's huge consideration that they have to think about in terms of their lifestyle, in terms of that parental responsibility for their kids. There's huge factors to it, and they're also not able to save the money the way the men's are. So they're really thinking about what's going to come in 5 years' time when I'm retired. What career opportunities have I got? And I think to your point about the coaching staff, I think we will see more women progress into roles like that just haven't been there in the level they have, because the game's only been professional for about 5 years. So I do hope we see more females in the managerial spaces, but I do think their earnings and their lifestyle that this game affords them just doesn't quite reach that. Obviously it doesn't quite reach, like in their early 20s you'll see them go to Europe out and about, but certainly not once they're beginning to think about.
Anne-Marie, what are the kind of things the governing body should be looking at now? One of my bugbears is the kick-off times, the fixtures, and if you've got a WSL game, kicking off, like a perfect example, but like we spoke about before, Arsenal City, 7 o'clock kickoff on a Sunday night. That is ludicrous. How they expected to, develop the game even more when fans won't be able to, well, they'll be able to, but they'll be reluctant to, say, take the kids, for instance. I know it's not just a family game, and it should be treated as a league where you'd expect just adults. But how could you expect to take your kids and develop the game at 7 o'clock on a Sunday night? And some people might say, yeah, but that'll be on TV.
Well, and that's the problem.
People would rather be at the match. I'd rather be at the match than watch
So would I.
TV.
But unfortunately, Andy, that's the problem. Now that they have got a bit of television money, television rules, the fans don't come into it at all. We've got a game there on the 25th against Chelsea, away at Chelsea. I think it's a 4 o'clock kickoff or something like that. Well, the majority of fans are not going to get back on trains or whatever you know, and it's those kind of things that just aren't, you know, no more than the man's game. They're just not considering fans. They're looking at the TV, they're looking at the money that's bringing in, and it's a big issue, I think.
But like I said earlier, Anne-Marie, you know, 7 o'clock on a Sunday night is absolutely ridiculous. You know, it's the governing bodies and the TV companies are embarrassing themselves because it's highlighting. You know, it's all about money. I know life's about money, but you know, they've got an ideal. The governing bodies have got an ideal opportunity here. If they want to make the money, make the money. But to make the money, they've got to make it attractive. So if they can, even say City women, if City were at home at say 3 o'clock on a Saturday, or even 5 o'clock on a Saturday, whatever it is, because of TV, it's a perfect opportunity to play the women's match at the CFA at say 12 o'clock. So you'd get that crowd coming in. People are watching the game live rather than waiting to see it pop up on City Plus. You know what you've got to pay for. You know, and things like that, or waiting for the highlights to come on, stuff like that. You'd see the full game live, so you'd have the atmosphere there. You know, City women win. You know, you're taking that straight into, you know, over the bridge into the men's game, and it'd be a great day out, and it wouldn't just be families that I'd certainly go and watch it every single game.
And in an ideal world, Andy, that is exactly what would happen. But again, there's no connection between men's and women's at all in that respect. It's like last season, FA Cup semi-final day, City played Liverpool, and you know, a few miles down the road, City women were playing, I can't remember, it was West Ham, I think it was.
Yeah.
You know, both kicking off on the same day. There was a bit of a difference in time, but not enough of a difference to make sure that any fan that was at the West Ham game could then get to Wembley. And they just don't think about these things. They think it's all or nothing on the men's game. And unfortunately, you know, Ian Wright was quite passionate about it after the Euros, and actually, you know, you need the likes of him to speak up a bit more, you know, because we're forgetting that the likes of, you know, I watch her, I think she's a great pundit as well, Alex Scott.
Yeah.
Used to have to pay to go and play.
Yeah.
You know, she had to buy her own kit, she had to make her own way to a game, and she took as much delight in the women winning the Euros than if she'd played herself, because she knew what had happened and what had gone on to get them to that point. And I just think we need, you know, probably more of the male players to kind of voice it, you know, get behind the women's team. You know, it's one thing I will say, I know that there's been occasions where Pep and a few of the players have been at the women's game.
You just stole my thunder.
Well, you see, you're not always, you know, you're not the fountain of all knowledge, as much as you like to think you are.
No, but you're right. And I was going to say, Pep, and you see at the training, the beauty about City. I know not every club's lucky enough, but Rosie, you've got the women and the under 23s training side by side with the men, and you're always. And I seen something a picture just before we started recording, a picture of Pep there, you know, with, you know, who was, I forget who he was chatting to, you know, one of the women players and stuff like that. But it just shows that for us to have a chance, you're quite right, Anne-Marie. We've got to start closing that gap a little bit, and you know, and I think as well, Rosie, you know, especially after the Euros, there's a lot of men more and more into the women's game now, because I think they've recognised that the quality, you know, something, it's bloody good.
Definitely. I think a lot more people. It's got a much bigger audience now. What we need to do is capitalize on that audience and get people attending matches. And how you get people to attend matches is you make them accessible to attend. And that's not just kids and family, that's away fans. 7 o'clock game against Arsenal on Sunday. Arsenal away fans wouldn't have been able to attend that coming up from the south. There's no trains going back to, maybe one train going back down south. It's these sorts of things, because the price points are really fair to get in. It's a tenner in or 20 max, and that's great. And that's a big call. That's the big call to action after these Euros, is start attending matches, show your support, grow the game, grow the revenue. And it is a shame that it's TV rights or many other decisions that are just thoughtless and not thinking bigger picture. They're thinking this weekend we can get this audience and that audience. It's like, that's not what's going to grow the women's game. We need people sitting in seats, and we need to create those atmospheres, that really competitive atmosphere between two groups of fans. No one to show up to a game and you've got a bunch of home fans, a third of the stadium full. What sort of atmosphere is that, you know?
Zero. So let me play devil's advocate here now. So the kickoff times, oh, you'll like this one, Anne-Marie. The kickoff times and the fixtures have gone absolutely shocking because of TV. Isn't it good that TV's actually putting money in to highlight the women's game? Oh.
Yes, I think it is good that the television companies are putting money in. But, and I would say the same with Sky, you know, they have to be considerate of fans, because you can't have, it's like no different to the men's team playing at Bournemouth on a Monday night at 8 o'clock, say. You know, what impact does that have on away fans?
I will say one thing about that though, and I think it's crucial. If, say, City was playing the men's game, say we was playing Arsenal on a Monday night, the transport companies have put extra transport on to ferry you know, fans to and from. I can't see them doing that for the women's game. So yet again, the women's game's being hindered by not equality, if you like.
It is, but it's going to take a while to get that equality. I honestly think it will, you know,
Right.
as sad as it is.
Rosie, here's one for you. Right, the Euros, absolutely fantastic, as we know. The nation's on the crest of a wave, and then all of a sudden you get in some of these lionesses where everyone's really up for. They can't wait to see them for the club football. You know, your Lucy Bronzes and that, all gone abroad. So how's that going to affect, you know, whether it's youngsters wanting to go to a match for the first time in their life, you know, this coming season, or regular fans who want to go and see these women play, you know, and they're not there. They're playing for Bayern Munich and Barcelona and Real Madrid. So, and there's players coming in who probably never heard of, in all honesty. How do you think that's going to balance out between things?
It's a good point, isn't it? I mean, I guess I would be on the side where I'm like, as individual women and individual players, good on you, capitalizing on where you're at in your career. Off you go. I do think it's a shame. I do think the trade-off, the sacrifice there, is that you do have people wanting to see the people week in week and they can't. But I think, you know, you could argue that if you have one or two of them in your team, or one or two recognizable players, you get them on the pitch and you go see them, and then you get to know your team. I think what's great about the women's game is this, in the WSL, certainly, there's only 12 teams. It's pretty easy to follow along and to get your head around what's going on. I do think that is a shame that the Lionesses are going abroad, in terms of the point you're making. But I would say it's largely actually quite a positive thing.
Yeah, but if you think about it, it's the Lionesses who play for City. So we're coming back to our original point.
We are. But I don't know. You watch City for City. You don't watch them to go see the majority of the Lionesses. I know that's the pulling point. That's a selling thing. You go, oh, come to the match. Come see these people who you recognise from before. I think the bigger win of the Euros was that more players want to come to England to play in the WSL, and I think that makes the league more exciting, more competitive, more engaging. Yep. But yeah, I can see your point about those Lionesses leaving. I mean, I'm gutted.
So on the final point before we go, despite all those players leaving, are we optimistic with the season ahead? I'll let you go first, Rosie.
Am I optimistic? It depends what we're talking about here. Are we going to win the league? No. It's going to be Chelsea, Arsenal 1-2, I think. Again. Do we have a chance of getting something else? Some silverware? Hopefully. I don't know. I wouldn't put a confident bet down. I think we're in for a rough season ahead, unfortunately. And I am an ever-long optimist about life. But even I'm like, oh, I'm nervous.
Will we qualify for Europe?
Okay, we'll go from an optimist to a pessimist. Anne-Marie.
Do you think we'll qualify for Europe, Anne-Marie?
I think so.
Do you?
Yeah, I think so. If we get off to a good start, I think we will.
I'm pretty convinced.
I'm gonna make a prediction. I think we're gonna start off very, very tough. A tough start. There'll be a managerial change and things will pick up and we'll finish the season in good shape.
Meaning third?
If it's not third and we don't qualify for Europe, if you can see those shoots of where we're doing all right, as long as you can see them shoots, because I know football, everybody wants the team to be in the Champions League and winning every single cup. There's only so many cups that you can win, and so many teams what can win them. If you can see the team developing in the right way, the togetherness, because I think the togetherness is crucial in whether you've got superstars or not. You can see that in the Arsenal teams, the Chelsea teams and stuff like that. They're not built on all superstars. It's the right person bringing them through. So if we don't quite make Europe and we're thereabouts at the end, I think most City fans would settle for that.
As long as Gareth Taylor's gone, yeah. You're not going to take fourth and tell me you're pleased with fourth and Gareth Taylor's still enrolled.
If we get fourth, Gareth Taylor, that means Gareth Taylor won't be there, because if he's there for the full season, I do fear for us. If I'm totally honest.
Yeah.
I do. So, anything else you would like to bring up, ladies?
No. Just that City are playing Aston Villa away on Sunday at 12:30, and it's live on BBC.
I thought you was going to go into a Martin Tyler, and it's
live. No,
that fella, I really do. So, Rosie, thank you very much for joining us and agreeing to be with us this season, because I think everybody's got to play the role into developing women's football, because it's huge compared to what it has been. So I think the more it's spoken about, podcasts and coverage and stuff like that, it's all good.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me on, and I'm really looking forward. I think it'll be a great season ahead. Despite my previous pessimism, I'm really looking forward to the season. I think it'll be such an interesting it's almost impossible to predict what way the teams are all going to shake out. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens.
Absolutely. So thank you again. Thanks for joining us both, and we'll do it very, very soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good one.
Easy.